Welcome to week 3. We're in unit C, and we're going to talk specifically in this lesson about creating an embedded style sheet. And for a lot of students, this is where HTML really starts to get exciting for them, because instead of just talking about the semantic layout and organization of a site or a page on a site, we're actually going to start being able to take a look at the appearance of the website. So let's go ahead and dig in. We're going to want to go into our class files and into Unit C. Specifically, we're looking in the Lessons folder, and we're going to look for the file htm_c-1. And I'm going to open that in my editor. I'm using Aptana, and I'll continue to use that throughout the end of the course. Again, you can use whatever editor you'd like, but I'd suggest using Aptana. That way you can follow along with my examples, and hopefully it'll be easier to stay on track. The first thing that you're asked to do is make a copy of this file in the same folder. So I'm going to do a save as here in the lessons folder under Unit C. I'm going to call this index.html. And again, the reason why you are usually asked right from the beginning, in this case in step 1, to rename the file is because we want to be able to keep the original data files available if we ever have to go back to them. If you ever want to practice again, or if for some reason your file gets corrupted and you just get off track and you want to start over, the original file, the original htm_c-1 will still be there for you. In step 2, you're asked to make the comments your own. So we'll just go into this comments area and add your name as the author, and then add today's date. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down after the script tag, and we are going to place a style tag. And again, in your book, oftentimes you're asked to create an opening style tag and then create the closing style tag. That's not always going to be necessary in Aptana, because as you can see, what the editor has done is it said, well, if you start with an opening tag, you are going to need the closing tag, so it creates it for you. We're going to hit enter, and then we're going to start to actually build a style. And in this case, we're going to use the word body, and then we're going to use the curly braces. And you see here again, when we entered the first curly brace, Aptana actually decided you need a closing curly brace, so it created it for us. Then we're going to build our first rule that's going to be attached to or applied to the body tag. And this first rule is going to be background color. What we're going to be using here is what we call name-value pairs. There's a name and there's a value in each pair. They're divided or delimited by a colon. So in this case, the name of the pair is background-color, and the value, according to the book, is ivory. At the end of each name-value pair, we're going to say we're done with this name-value pair. We're going to put a semicolon. That's the indicator to the web browser as they parse this information that that's the end of the name-value pair. The next name-value pair we're going to create is one called text align. Again, that's the name. For the value, we're going to say left. Now, if you look at what you've created right here, you've created a pair called background color ivory. Well, maybe that means that it's going to create an ivory color background. That's what you'd intuitively think, and that's what actually does happen. The next name value pair has the name of text align and the value of left. What this is going to mean is anywhere that this particular name value pair is applied, we're going to align the text to the left. Pretty intuitive, right? Let's go ahead and take a look at how this comes together. I'm going to hit the run button up here, and hopefully we'll be able to pull this up in a browser. I did not save my file before I asked for it to be seen in the browser, so it's prompted me saying, do you really want to see it now, or do you want to save it first? And I do want to save it, so I'm going to hit yes. It's going to be saved, and then it pulls up in the browser. Now, as you look at this particular page, you may say, well, it doesn't really look any different than normal. And that's because ivory is sort of a subtle color. What I suggest is anytime you're given an example where you're told to make a change, a name value pair, use that opportunity to actually dig in and experiment. Even though the book asked you to make the name value pair ivory, I'm going to do something a little different here. I'm going to change the word ivory to green. Let's see what happens. I'm going to try to run it. Again, Aptena is going to tell me you haven't saved the file. And I can eliminate that dialog box if I just go ahead and save the file before I try to run it. I'm going to say OK, and look what happens. My page that I've created, or that I've edited, that I've added the name value pair to, now turns green. We'll go back one more time. I'm going to change the name value pair to red. We'll run the file, saving it, and now the background is red. So hopefully you can see already how this works. I'm going to go back one more time to Aptena, and I'm going to change the value of the name value pair to ivory, just as was requested in the exercise. We'll run it again. And you can see now it's back to the ivory color background. We've talked several times about this idea of running your code in a browser. If you just hit this button, one of the default browsers that were set up by Aptena to start with will run the code. Let's just say that you want to see it in a different browser. Well, if you hit the drop down to the right of this little button, you'll notice that different browsers are listed. In my case, I have Chrome, Firefox, and Internet Explorer. When I first started using Aptena on this machine, Chrome wasn't included as one of the options. It was just Firefox and Internet Explorer. So how did I get Chrome to show up? Or how do you get your favorite browser to show up if it's not showing up in this list? You can go down to Run Configurations, and it will walk you through the process of adding additional browsers to your list of browsers that Aptena will run the code through. Again, by default, the first browser is always used, but you can select manually any of the other browsers listed here, and by selecting Run Configurations, you can add additional browsers. So for instance, if I wanted to add Safari or Opera to my list, other browsers that I may want to test from time to time, I can do that by using the Run Configuration options. Give that a try. If you have any questions or concerns about it, let me know. That's it for this lesson. Let's move on to the next lesson.